A lot more stores closing right now than there are stores opening. And this is according to data from Coresight Research. It expects that number will continue to grow.
You drive past that Dollar General on the corner every day. You pick up your prescriptions at the same Walgreens you've used for 20 years. You grab a cheap birthday gift at Dollar General because that's what you've always done. Now picture this. One morning you pull into the parking lot and the lights are off. Doors locked. There's a paper sign taped to the glass. This location is permanently closed. No warning, no goodbye, just gone. That's not a hypothetical. That's happening right now in thousands of communities across America. In 2025, more than 8,000 retail stores closed their doors, and 2026 is not slowing down. We've identified 12 that matter most. Some of these names will shock you, a few will scare you. And number one isn't about shopping. It's about whether you can still get food and medicine in your own town. It is the symbol of the dying American retail model. Let's start with number 12. Number 12, Dollar General. Most people think Dollar General is the one chain that always opens, never closes. A chain that goes where nobody else will go. Every rural crossroads, every forgotten neighborhood, every town where the nearest Walmart is a 30-minute drive. So how is it possible that they're also shutting stores down? Because Dollar General's operating profit dropped almost 50% in a single quarter. They shuttered nearly 100 locations plus 45 pop shelf stores, and they've racked up over $20 million in federal safety fines, blocked fire exits, stores so understaffed that merchandise is piled in the aisles like a warehouse after an earthquake. They were the first company in America placed on OSHA's severe violator list. That's not an award you hang on the wall. You're not supposed to need hazmat training to buy canned soup, but that's the bar Dollar General keeps tripping over. They're still opening 575 new locations. But look at where. Richer areas, denser suburbs, better margins. The stores they're closing, the ones in the poorest communities, the ones people depend on. If you live in one of those towns, this isn't a business story. It's the sound of the last lifeboat pulling away from the dock. When a chain that was built to serve the poorest Americans decides poor neighborhoods are too risky for its business model, that's not optimization. That's abandonment. And if a chain opening 500 stores a year is pulling out of your town, wait until you see the 106-year-old brand that's about to lose every single store it has. Number 11, Eddie Bauer. There's something almost sacred about a jacket that outlasts you. Eddie Bauer built a business on that feeling. The man who founded it invented the quilted down jacket. Patented it in 1940. Your parents probably owned one. Your grandparents definitely did. 106 years, 3 bankruptcies survived. And in 2026, every single one of its 200 stores is preparing to close. After a century of outlasting everything, Eddie Bauer is being treated like a logo on a spreadsheet. The brand is now run by a holding company called Catalyst Brands, backed by Simon Property Group, Brookfield, Authentic Brands Group, and, this is real, Shine, the ultra-fast fashion giant that undercuts everyone on price. Same playbook for every brand they touch. Strip it down to intellectual property, license the name, close the stores. Sell the logo on someone else's website. Eddie Bauer's online sales are already being handed off to a new company called Outdoor 5. The name lives. The stores die. You'll still see the label, just not the fitting room. When the people running your favorite outdoor brand also run a fast fashion app, they're not in the clothing business. They're in the intellectual property business. And the stores were always disposable, you just didn't know it yet. Call it what it is. Eddie Bauer isn't a brand anymore. It's a name tag pinned to a body bag. Eddie Bauer got 106 years and 3 chances. The next brand on our list got a second life, and still couldn't outrun what was coming. Number 10, Forever 21. Forever 21 already had its funeral. Bankruptcy in 2019. Hundreds of stores lost. The brand was picked up by investors who said they'd turn it around. 4 years later, it died again. This time, nobody's bringing it back. The U.S. company filed Chapter 11 in early 2025 and moved straight to liquidation. Every remaining store closed. The physical presence of Forever 21 in America is now 0. For a lot of malls, it felt sudden. 1 month it was there, the next you were staring at a gate and a space available sign. Here's what actually killed it. While Forever 21 was selling $15 tops in shopping malls, Shine was selling $3 tops on a phone screen. No rent, no fitting rooms, no mall parking, just an algorithm that knew what a 16-year-old wanted before she did, and a shipping pipeline from Chinese factories that could deliver it in a week. Now here's the part that makes your head spin. The brand name Forever 21 is now owned by Authentic Brands Group, the same company behind Eddie Bauer. Both brands are housed under Catalyst Brands, which is partially owned by Shein. The company that destroyed Forever 21's business is now a co-owner of the holding company that owns what's left of Forever 21. If that doesn't tell you how retail works in 2026, nothing will. These aren't bankruptcies, they're harvests, and you and I are standing in the field. Fast fashion couldn't outrun online competitors. So imagine what happens when your entire product turns into a download. Number 9, GameStop. The last time GameStop truly mattered to your kid was probably the night you stood in line with them at midnight for a release that feels ancient now. The trade-in counter. The argument over which games to give up. The drive home with the windows down and a new case cracking open in the passenger seat. That version of GameStop is a ghost, and the Reddit miracle didn't save it. It just gave the ghost $1 billion. GameStop now leads the entire country in planned store closures for 2026. They've shut down over 470 locations in recent waves. At their peak, more than 5,000 stores. Well below 4,000 now and falling. Stores that used to have midnight lines now have more Funko Pops than customers. The fundamental problem is one no amount of money can fix. The product is disappearing. PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam all push digital downloads. The game arrives on your console the same way an email arrives on your phone, instantly, invisibly, and without anyone behind a register. When the thing you sell becomes invisible, the store becomes a museum of something that used to matter. GameStop isn't a turnaround story, it's a taxidermy exhibit. Number 8, Joann. If you've ever walked into a Joann for fabric, you remember the smell. Bolts of cotton, craft glue, that mix of thread and paper and seasonal potpourri that hit you the second you passed through the doors. The women behind the cutting counter knew every aisle. They'd measure your fabric and ask what you were making. They remembered your name. That smell is gone now, in all 800 stores. Joann filed for bankruptcy twice. The first time in early 2024, tried to reorganize, didn't hold. The second moved to full liquidation. By 2025, every location was dark. The customers didn't leave. That's what makes this one hurt. Millions of Americans still sew, quilt, knit, and craft. The demand was real. The debt wasn't survivable. In 2011, a private equity firm called Leonard Green & Partners bought Joann through a leveraged buyout. They loaded the company with over $1 billion in debt. For 13 years, Joann tried to service those payments while competing with Amazon, Hobby Lobby, and 1,000 specialty websites. The customers showed up every week. The balance sheet didn't care. No website will replace the woman at the cutting counter who remembered your name. But the accountants at Leonard Green weren't thinking about her when they loaded a craft store with $1 billion in debt. Joann didn't fail. It was harvested by people who never stood at the cutting counter, never bought a single yard of fabric, and still walked away with their fees. And when the stores people traded down to start disappearing, when even the affordable places can't survive, you're not looking at a quirky retail story. You're looking at the bottom of the ladder giving way. Stop and look at what just happened. 3 chains, 3 rituals, all gone. That's what collapse actually looks like. Not one big bang, but every little routine getting quietly canceled. Every place where spending $50 used to feel like it meant something. Erased. And we're not even halfway through. Number 7, Dollar Tree/family. Dollar stores are where you go when there's no margin left in your life. When you're counting every penny, the last rung on the ladder. And what's happening inside them is worse than you think. Dollar Tree built its entire brand on one idea. Everything in this store costs $1. Then it was $1.25, then $1.50, then higher. The promise is broken, but the broken promise isn't even the worst part. Dollar Tree's sister chain, Family Dollar, had a distribution center in West Memphis, Arkansas. In 2022, the FDA went in for an inspection. What they found was one of the most revolting warehouse conditions in recent retail history. More than 1,100 dead rodents. Inside a facility storing food, medicine, and household products shipped to hundreds of stores across the South and Midwest. That's not Shrink. That's a horror movie. And the props were sitting next to your cereal. If you shopped at a Family Dollar anywhere in those states between those dates, that merchandise touched those shelves. Massive recalls followed. Over 400 Family Dollar locations temporarily closed. Dollar Tree has now shuttered or rebranded over 600 Family Dollar stores, with more waves coming through 2026. The entire dollar store model is breaking. Suppliers cannot produce goods worth buying at these price points. Not with current inflation, not with current shipping costs. Either prices go up, destroying the brand, or quality goes through the floor. These are supposed to be the stores you trade down to when everything else is too expensive. When even they start breaking, there is no cheaper option waiting underneath. If even the dollar store is cracking, stop calling it a retail trend. It's a thermometer for how much pain is left in the bottom half of the country. First they broke the dollar promise, then they stored your groceries next to dead rats. It only happened because the people running these warehouses know their customers don't have the power to fight back. Number 6. JCPenney. Nobody on TV is going to say this out loud, so I will. JCPenney is not a department store anymore. It's a prop. The easy story is that department stores are dying because everyone shops online. The real answer is uglier. JCPenney survived its 2020 bankruptcy. That's the story everybody tells. But surviving and living are very different things. Look at who bought JCPenney out of bankruptcy. It wasn't a retail company. It was Simon Property Group and Brookfield, the two biggest mall landlords in the country. They didn't rescue JCPenney because they believe in the brand. They rescued it because when a Penney's closes, the mall it anchors dies with it. Empty anchor stores collapse foot traffic. Other tenants leave. The building goes dark. JCPenney is now being kept alive for someone else's benefit. And it gets worse. JCPenney is now part of Catalyst Brands, the same holding company we talked about with Eddie Bauer. The same one preparing a bankruptcy filing right now. One analyst described Catalyst's approach as financial arbitrage masquerading as brand stewardship. That's a fancy way of saying they're not running a department store. They're managing a portfolio of logos at the expense of the customers. Walk into a JCPenney today and you'll feel it. Sparse shelves, skeleton crews, entire departments that feel like they were stocked by someone who's already left. If you've ever walked through one and thought, this doesn't feel like a real store anymore, you were right. It's not. Underneath all the logos and the press releases, here's what JCPenney actually is in 2026. A ventilator keeping a mall alive. Pull the plug and the whole building flatlines. #5. Saks Global / Saks off 5th. If you wanted proof that even luxury can go bankrupt and fast forward, Saks just handed it to you. In late 2024, Saks bought Neiman Marcus for $2.65 billion. Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman, all under one corporate roof. A luxury empire for the modern age. 13 months later, they filed for bankruptcy. Within 2 weeks of the filing, they announced the closure of 57 out of 69 Saks off 5th stores. All 5 remaining Neiman Marcus last call locations. The off 5th website shut down entirely. Here's what happened. The debt from the Neiman acquisition was enormous. To handle it, Saks changed its payment terms with vendors, basically telling the designers and brands that supply its shelves, "We'll pay you, but on our schedule." The vendors said no. They stopped shipping. And when a luxury department store has empty racks where Gucci used to be, customers walk in and walk right back out. 13 months from acquisition to bankruptcy, $2.5 billion in debt. In Wall Street time, that's not a turnaround plan. That's a smash and grab in a designer suit. If Bergdorf Goodman can't keep product on its shelves, the word luxury doesn't mean what it used to. Forget the cautionary tale about greed. What Saks proved is simpler. Even the top shelf is made of plywood. Number 4. Macy's. Macy's isn't dying. Macy's is choosing who deserves to keep their store. 50 stores closed in 2024. 66 more in 2025. Up to 150 planned over 3 years. And here's the part most people miss. The stores being cut are not random. Macy's has a list of about 350 go-forward locations. Those are the stores in wealthy zip codes, high-traffic shopping districts, and premium malls. Those stores get investment, renovation, and attention. Everything else? Cut. The stores being shut down are overwhelmingly in mid-tier malls and middle-class suburbs. The exact neighborhoods where Macy's was the anchor tenant. The place your family went for back-to-school shopping, holiday outfits, and the only decent department store within driving distance. If you live in one of those zip codes, the ones that aren't rich enough, to make the list, Macy's has already made its decision about you. You just haven't gotten the letter yet. And trust me, corporate already wrote it. Here's how you know. If your Macy's hasn't had a remodel, new brands, or even fresh signage in years, you're not on the go-forward list. You're on the waiting for the axe list. When Macy's pulls out of a mid-tier mall, the mall usually follows. Foot traffic collapses, other tenants leave, the food court empties. Within a year or two, you're looking at a dead zone. The truth underneath all of this: Macy's isn't closing because it's failing. It's closing your store because your neighborhood isn't profitable enough. Think about what we just saw. Dollar Tree broke its only promise and stored your food next to dead rodents. Penney is a zombie being kept alive by its own landlords. Saks borrowed $2.5 billion and imploded in 13 months. And Macy's is surgically carving middle-class America off its map. That's the middle of the mall getting ripped out. First the cheap stores, then the mid-range, then the luxury. What's left is a mausoleum with a cell phone kiosk in it. But everything so far you can live without. It's inconvenient, but it's not dangerous. Starting now, we're talking about things you can't live without. Food first. Number 3, Winn-Dixie/regional grocers. You're standing in aisle 3 at Winn-Dixie. Same spot you've stood for 30 years. The fluorescent light hums the same way it always has. Nothing looks wrong, but on paper your store already has a date of death. We all grew up assuming grocery was the one category that could never collapse. People always need food, right? Low margins, but steady. The lights always stay on at the supermarket. They don't. There's a kind of grief that comes when your grocery store closes. It's not the same as losing a clothing store or a furniture outlet. Your grocery store is where you went every single week for decades. You knew the aisles. You knew which register was fastest. You had a routine, and that routine was part of your life. Across America, those routines are being erased, quietly. Winn-Dixie used to be a Southern institution. Generations of families in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and Louisiana grew up with it. But Winn-Dixie doesn't even exist as an independent company anymore. Its parent, Southeastern Grocers, was acquired by Aldi in 2023. Stores are being rebranded or closed. The name is fading fast. It's not just Winn-Dixie. Albertsons, the parent behind Safeway, Vons, Shaw's, and Jewel Osco, is stuck. The massive $24 billion merger with Kroger got blocked by regulators. That left Albertsons holding its debt, its aging stores, and no exit strategy. Stores closing under the word optimization. In New England, a Shaw's closing means a town losing the last place you could buy a halfway decent birthday cake on short notice. And Amazon Fresh, supposed to be the future of grocery shopping, is shutting down all remaining locations. The tech giant that disrupts everything couldn't crack the grocery store. Here's the reality nobody talks about on the news. When your grocery store closes in rural America, your backup isn't 5 minutes away. It's 25 minutes. In January, on back roads, for a 70-year-old who doesn't drive well at night, that's a crisis. Grocery isn't boring and safe. Grocery is running on single-digit profit margins with mountains of debt in a country where fuel costs and food inflation are squeezing from both sides. It's one of the most fragile categories in American retail, and it's the one you depend on the most. When your regional grocer disappears, there's usually one fallback, a big national chain. But the biggest traditional grocer in America has its own problems. Number 2, Kroger. Kroger is the largest traditional supermarket chain in America. It's boring. It's reliable. It's the store you've shopped at your whole life without thinking twice about it. Don't stop thinking about it now. That $24 billion merger with Albertsons? Dead. A federal judge blocked it, which means Kroger spent years of management attention, legal fees, and strategic planning on a deal that produced exactly nothing. They're back where they started, competing against Walmart, Amazon, Costco, and Aldi with the same stores, the same margins, and the same problems. And now they're trimming, quietly. No press conferences, no dramatic headlines. Individual stores disappearing one at a time under language like portfolio optimization and network alignment. Corporate speak designed to make a disappearance sound like a strategy. If you're a Kroger shopper, you've felt the other part of this. The cart that used to cost you $70 now pushes $90, and nothing in it has changed. You start Googling how far is Aldi and wondering if the drive is worth it. In 2026, expect clusters of quiet closures in markets where the margins don't justify the lease. No warning, no fanfare. Just one Tuesday when you pull into the lot and find a note on the door. The scariest promo in 2026 isn't buy one, get one. It's store closing, everything must go. We've now covered every layer. Dollar stores, fashion brands, craft stores, department stores, grocery chains, 11 entries, 11 signals that the American retail landscape is fracturing. But I saved the worst for last. Before I get into it, If you've made it this far, you already know this channel doesn't waste your time. We dig into the facts, we follow the money, and we tell you what's coming before it hits. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. Because the people who watch these videos before everyone else, they're the ones who don't get caught off guard. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and let's talk about number one. Number one, the essentials. When Walmart, CVS, and Walgreens crack, the whole system cracks. Nobody worries about Walmart closing. Nobody lies awake thinking their Walgreens might disappear. These three are supposed to be the last thing standing. Too big, too everywhere, too essential. That belief is exactly what makes this so dangerous. Everything we've talked about so far, every closure, every bankruptcy, every brand that vanished, was a symptom. This is the disease. Think about what these three actually replaced. Your town used to have a general store. Walmart replaced it. Your town used to have an independent pharmacist who knew your name. CVS and Walgreens replaced him. Your town used to have a local grocer and a butcher. Kroger and Winn-Dixie replaced them. That replacement system, the big chains that swallowed Main Street, is now collapsing, and nothing is coming to replace the replacements. We ripped out Main Street, replaced it with 3 logos, and now those logos are quietly ripping themselves out of your town. Walmart. In thousands of towns, Walmart isn't a store. It's the store. The grocery, the pharmacy, the place you buy everything from diapers to motor oil, and Walmart is quietly pruning marginal locations one by one. No press conference, no outrage. Just a dark box where the only full-line store in 50 miles used to be. CVS, the largest pharmacy chain in America, has closed more than 900 stores in 3 years and is still cutting. Every prescription from a closed location gets dumped onto the remaining counters. Same building, same staff, double the volume. A 37% error rate at one Virginia Beach location. A federal complaint naming 10 patients who died. That's what happens when a pharmacy chain decides it's actually an insurance company that happens to fill prescriptions on the side. Walgreens, closing 1,200 stores, 13% of its entire footprint. Ripped out while digging out from opioid lawsuits and a private equity takeover by Sycamore Partners. When the second largest pharmacy chain is pulling out 1 in 8 locations, it doesn't matter what the logo says about caring for communities. And remember, Rite Aid is already gone. All 1,300 stores closed. Now put all 3 on one map. Walmart trimming unprofitable towns. CVS collapsing under its own volume. Walgreens ripping out 1 in 8 stores. You don't get a few dark storefronts. You get entire counties where there is no full-service grocery, no big box, and nowhere within 20 minutes to fill a prescription. That's the real end of the old American retail order. Not a single bankruptcy headline, not one dramatic closing, just the slow erasure of the last 3 places in town where you could buy food, fill a prescription, and pick up a few small reasons to feel normal. 48 million Americans already live in pharmacy deserts. 89% of adults over 65 take prescription medication. Between 7,000 and 9,000 Americans die every year from medication errors. Errors that happen more often when pharmacists are overworked, understaffed, and processing prescriptions from 3 shuttered stores on top of their own. On paper, analysts call these underperforming assets. In real life, it looks like your 82-year-old mother driving 40 minutes in January for blood pressure meds because the Walgreens on the corner is a weed-choked parking lot. It looks like cutting pills in half because you couldn't get a refill in time. It looks like realizing that in the same year your last grocery, your last big box, and your last pharmacy all closed, and nobody outside your town even noticed. The joke of the 90s was that Walmart killed your local shops. The joke of the 20s is that nobody shows up to replace Walmart. You can't stop those spreadsheets, but you can stop being the last person in your town to find out. This week, list your medications and where you fill them. If it's a chain that's closing stores, talk to your doctor now about transferring to an independent pharmacy or setting up a 90-day mail order supply. Don't wait until the doors are locked. Know your backup grocery store. Not the one you prefer, the one you'd use if your regular store disappeared tomorrow. Drive there once, know the route, and watch for the early signs. Shorter hours, empty shelves, perpetual temporary closures. Those aren't quirks, those are the countdown. 12 chains, thousands of stores, millions of people affected. And here's the part that should stop you cold. This is the list for 2026. It's February. The list for 2027 is already being written. In boardrooms you'll never see, by people who will never set foot in your town. And by the time the news reaches you, the locks will already be on the doors. The America where you could drive 5 minutes and buy groceries, fill a prescription, and pick up what your family needed? That America is closing, one store at a time, and it's not coming back. Drop a comment. Tell me which chain on this list you'd miss the most, and which one is already gone from your town. I read every single one. If you want to see where all of this is heading, click the video YouTube is showing you right now. That story goes even deeper. Subscribe, hit the bell, because by the time most people realize what's happening, it'll already be too late.